Imagine having all the money in the world. Imagine being the man every woman desires, the visionary pioneer every man wants to be, and the fearless pilot who holds the speed record of the world. Now, imagine ending your days in a completely dark, sealed-off hotel penthouse, weighing barely 90 pounds, your hair hanging down to your waist and your fingernails curled into twisted, grotesque claws. This is not a work of fiction. This is the deeply disturbing, true story of a man who reached the absolute pinnacle of human achievement and glamour, only to be swallowed whole by his own mind. This is the tragedy of the billionaire who became a prisoner of his own obsessions. The story of Howard Hughes. To understand the sheer magnitude of his fall, you first have to understand the height from which he dropped. Howard Hughes was born into wealth, but he wasn't content to simply inherit it. When his father died, an 18-year-old Howard inherited the Hughes Tool Company, a business that held the patent for a drill bit that revolutionized the oil industry. It was a license to print money, but oil and drill bits bored the young visionary. He looked at his massive fortune and saw a ticket to the only two things he truly cared about: movies and airplanes. In the late 1920s, Hughes arrived in Hollywood like a force of nature. He wasn't just another rich kid looking to fund cheap pictures. He wanted to make cinematic history. He poured an unprecedented $4 million of his own money into an aviation war epic called Hell's Angels. When the silent film era abruptly ended during production, a normal producer would have cut their losses. Hughes simply threw away the silent footage and completely remade the film with sound. He demanded absolute, uncompromising perfection. He directed the complex aerial dogfights himself, pushing his stunt pilots to the absolute edge, and even crashing a plane himself during filming. Hell's Angels was a massive hit. He had conquered Hollywood on his first real try. For the next decade, Hughes lived the ultimate playboy lifestyle. He dated the most famous and beautiful women in the world: Katharine Hepburn, Ava Gardner, Bette Davis, and Rita Hayworth. He was a regular at the most exclusive clubs, always sharply dressed, always holding court. Yet, even in these golden years, the cracks were beginning to show. He would disappear for weeks at a time. He would obsess over the microscopic details of a woman's wardrobe or the exact aerodynamics of a plane's wing. His mind was an engine that simply could not turn off. Aviation was where his obsession found its most dangerous outlet. Hughes wasn't just funding aircraft companies. He was designing the planes and test flying them himself. In 1935, he shattered the world land plane speed record in an aircraft he helped design, the H-1 Racer. 3 years later, he shattered the record for flying around the world, completing the journey in just 91 hours. New York City gave him a massive ticker tape parade. He was an American hero, a symbol of endless innovation and bravery. But his relentless pursuit of pushing the limits of physics and engineering was about to exact a devastating toll. In July 1946, Hughes was piloting the XF-11, an experimental spy plane he had designed for the U.S. military. During the maiden flight over Los Angeles, a propeller malfunctioned. The plane plummeted from the sky, crashing violently into a Beverly Hills neighborhood. The wreckage erupted into an inferno. Hughes was pulled from the burning cockpit with a crushed collarbone, multiple cracked ribs, third-degree burns, and a collapsed lung. His heart actually stopped on the operating table. He survived, but the man who was pulled from that wreckage was not the same man who had climbed into the cockpit. The physical pain from the crash was unbearable, and to manage it, doctors prescribed him heavy doses of morphine and codeine. This was the turning point. The severe physical trauma, combined with the onset of opiate addiction, acted as an accelerant for the obsessive-compulsive disorder he had been secretly battling since childhood. His mother had been a severe germaphobe who constantly worried about his health, and those deep-seated anxieties now began to consume his every waking thought. Despite his declining mental state, he still had flashes of absolute brilliance. He famously defended himself in front of a Senate committee investigating war profiteering, humiliating the senators who tried to tear him down. He completed and flew the H-4 Hercules, famously known as the Spruce Goose, the largest flying boat ever built, just to prove his critics wrong. But these were the final, dying embers of his public life. By the late 1950s, the handsome Hollywood playboy had vanished. In his place was a terrified phantom. Hughes began isolating himself in private screening rooms for weeks at a time, sitting completely naked in the dark, watching the same movies over and over again on a continuous loop. He communicated with his staff only through handwritten memos, filled with complex, contradictory rules about how to open doors, how to handle his food, and how to look at him. He demanded that no one make eye contact with him. His wealth allowed him to indulge his madness on an unprecedented scale. When he decided to move to Las Vegas, he rented the entire top floor of the Desert Inn. When the hotel management politely asked him to leave so they could accommodate high-rolling gamblers, Hughes didn't argue. He simply bought the entire hotel. He then proceeded to buy several other casinos and vast tracts of land around Vegas, effectively running the city from a darkened penthouse suite he never left. The stories from this period sound like dark fiction, but they are entirely true. Hughes became terrified of germs. He required his Mormon aides, whom he hired because he believed they were the only pure and trustworthy people left, to use layers of tissue paper just to hand him a document. He wore empty Kleenex boxes on his feet instead of shoes. He became obsessed with his bodily fluids, storing his urine in glass jars around his bedroom. He would spend entire days painstakingly sorting his peas by size before eating them. Once, he developed a sudden craving for Baskin-Robbins banana nut ice cream. His staff informed him that the flavor had been discontinued. Unwilling to accept no for an answer, Hughes placed a massive custom order directly with the factory, forcing them to produce 200 gallons of the specific flavor just for him. A few days after the massive shipment arrived at the hotel, Hughes suddenly announced he was tired of banana nut and only wanted French vanilla. He was a billionaire who controlled airlines, movie studios, and a vast defense contracting empire. Yet he couldn't control the firing of his own synapses. His empire was running on autopilot while he slowly starved himself in a blacked-out room, his body withering away, his mind trapped in a labyrinth of paranoia and imaginary contamination. He moved from Vegas to the Bahamas, to Nicaragua, to London, and to Acapulco, always renting the entire top floor of the most luxurious hotels and immediately blacking out all the windows. He was running from something that was locked inside his own head. On April 5, 1976, the situation reached a breaking point. Hughes was in Acapulco, slipping in and out of a coma. His inner circle finally decided they had to get him to a hospital in the United States. They loaded his fragile, emaciated body onto a private jet headed for Houston, Texas. He never made it. Howard Hughes, the man who had conquered the skies, died in the air. When authorities examined his body, the reality of his existence shocked the world. The dashing aviator who once romanced Hollywood's greatest leading ladies was unrecognizable. He weighed just 93 pounds. The FBI actually had to use his fingerprints to identify the body because his physical appearance was completely destroyed. X-rays revealed broken needles snapped off in his arms from years of injecting codeine. Howard Hughes built a legacy that shaped modern aviation, cinema, and even the city of Las Vegas. He had the resources to buy anything on the planet. He could command armies of engineers, lawyers, and executives. But in the end, all of his billions could not buy him the one thing he desperately needed: a single moment of peace. He died a prisoner in a cage built of his own design, proving that sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't hiding in the dark. They are hiding right inside our own minds.